When you look at your life, you'll realize that the world makes countless demands of you, your family, your friends, your job, your responsibilities. And while all of those matter, none of them hold the same weight as the commitment you make to yourself. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go off and the world goes quiet, you're left alone with your thoughts, your dreams, and your truth. The promise you make to yourself is not just a passing thought, it's a bond. It's a contract written in silence, a vow that only you and your heart understand. Breaking a promise to someone else is painful, but breaking the promise you made to yourself is devastating. It eats at you. It lingers. It whispers every time you look in the mirror, reminding you that you were meant for more, reminding you that you once swore you wouldn't give up. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, "This is the year I'll change. This is the moment I'll rise. This is the time I'll prove to myself what I'm capable of"? That's not just motivation talking, that's your soul demanding you to honor your commitment. When you break that promise, you let yourself down in ways no one else can see. But when you keep that promise, when you stay true to it even in the face of fear, exhaustion, and doubt, something extraordinary happens. You unlock power, you build self-respect, you create unshakable confidence because you learn to trust yourself. And here's the truth. If you can't keep the promises you make to yourself, how can you expect to build a life of greatness? How can you expect others to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself enough to follow through? This is why your strongest commitment must always be to you. Not because you're selfish, but because your life, your potential, and your legacy depend on it. The world only sees the results, but those results are born from the private battles you win with yourself every single day. Too often, people confuse promises with guarantees. They think that because they made a promise to themselves, the road should be smooth, the path should be straight, and the victories should come quickly. But that's not how life works. When you promised more to yourself, you didn't promise it would be easy, you promised it would be worth it. The truth is, life will test you. It will break your plans, delay your dreams, and push you into places of doubt. You will face nights when nothing seems to work, when every effort feels wasted, and when the temptation to quit grows louder than your inner voice. But that's the moment you must remember. Easy doesn't shape you, struggle does. Think of every person you admire, every success story you've ever heard. None of them walked a simple path. Every one of them faced pain, rejection, and hardship. The difference is not that their journey was easier than yours. The difference is that they held on to their promise when it got difficult. They didn't run from the storm, they endured it. And you, too, must endure. You have to remind yourself that meaning is found in the climb, not at the top. It's the process that transforms you, not the finish line. Each setback teaches you resilience. Each failure teaches you wisdom. Each obstacle sharpens your strength. And when you stay true to your vow through all of it, life doesn't just give you results, it gives you purpose. So yes, life will not be easy. But ask yourself this. Would you rather have an easy life with no growth, or a meaningful life filled with progress, victories, and lessons that shape who you are meant to become? One of the greatest lies we are taught to believe is that failure means we are finished. That if we fall short, if we stumble, if we don't get it right the first time, we have lost. But the truth is, failure is not the end. It is part of the journey. It is a stepping stone carved into the road that leads you toward the promise you made to yourself. Think back on your life. How many times have you failed at something you deeply wanted? Maybe you started something and couldn't finish. Maybe you gave everything you had and still came up short. In those moments, it's easy to feel like your promise was a mistake, like maybe you weren't capable after all. But here's what you need to understand. Every failure carries a lesson. and every lesson brings you closer to victory. Failure is not a dead end, it's feedback. It teaches you what doesn't work, so you can find what does. It humbles you, so when success comes, you value it more. It strengthens you, so when life gets harder, and it will, you don't break under pressure. The ones who achieve greatness are not the ones who avoided failure, but the ones who refused to be defined by it. They looked failure in the face and said, "You can slow me down, but you can't stop me. I promised myself more, and I will not quit here." Every time you fall, you have two choices. Let the failure bury you, or let it build you. The promise you made to yourself demands that you choose the second option, because you owe it to yourself to keep going. You owe it to yourself to rise again, and you owe it to yourself to turn your failures into stepping stones toward the life you swore you would create. One of the greatest traps people fall in, who is the pursuit of perfection. They think unless everything is flawless, unless every step is executed without mistake, they are failing. But perfection was never the promise you made to yourself. What you truly promised was growth, the commitment to becoming better than you were yesterday. Perfection is an illusion. It paralyzes you, making you hesitate, making you doubt, making you feel not ready again and again. But growth is real. Growth happens every time you push yourself to take one more step, every time you try again after stumbling, every time you choose to learn instead of quit. When you promised more to yourself, you weren't promising to never make mistakes. You weren't promising to never feel fear. You weren't promising to never fall. You promised that no matter what, you would evolve. You would rise from your mistakes. You would use every scar, every lesson, every failure as fuel to keep moving forward. Progress is the true measure of success. If you're one step ahead of where you were yesterday, you are winning. If you're learning, you are winning. If you're refusing to stay stuck in the same place, you are honoring your promise. So, release the weight of perfection. Don't let it chain you down. Instead, focus on growth, small steps, daily progress, the compounding effect of effort over time. Because when you choose growth over perfection, you not only move forward, you build a life that is stronger, richer, and truer to the promise you made to yourself. Motivation is powerful. It's the spark that ignites the fire inside you. But here's the hard truth. Motivation doesn't last. Some days you'll wake up energized, ready to conquer the world, and other days you'll wake up tired, discouraged, and empty. If you only rely on motivation, your promise will die on the days when your heart isn't in it. That's why discipline is everything. Discipline is the bridge between the promise you made and the reality you want to create. It's what keeps you moving when the excitement is gone. It's what pushes you to keep your word to yourself even when no one is watching, even when nobody is cheering, even when quitting looks so much easier. Think about it. Anybody can keep going when they feel inspired. But the ones who actually achieve greatness are the ones who keep going without inspiration. They train when they're tired. They show up when they don't feel like it. They take action when the world says rest. And that's how they separate themselves from the rest. When you rely only on motivation, you become inconsistent. But when you build discipline, you become unstoppable. Discipline turns your promise into a lifestyle, not just a dream. Discipline makes sure that even on your weakest days, you don't betray the vow you made to yourself. So remember this, motivation may get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. And if you truly promised more to yourself, then discipline isn't optional, it's the lifeline that will carry you through every storm. Fear is natural. It's the voice in your head that whispers, "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if they laugh at me?" Fear wants you to shrink, to hide, to abandon the promise you made to yourself. But here's the truth. The promise is stronger than the fear. When you first told yourself, "I will do more, I will be more," you weren't speaking from fear, you were speaking from courage. That promise came from the deepest part of you, the part that knows you are capable of more than your doubts suggest. Fear might scream loud, but your promise speaks with truth, and truth will always outlast fear. Fear thrives in hesitation. The longer you wait, the louder it grows. But the moment you act, the moment you move forward, despite the trembling, despite the uncertainty, fear begins to lose its grip. Every step you take in the direction of your promise weakens the chains of fear. Remember this: courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is keeping your promise alive in the face of fear. It's saying, "Yes, I'm scared, but I'm moving anyway." And every time you do that, you prove to yourself that your promise holds more power than your fear ever could. So when fear comes, and it will, don't see it as a stop sign. See it as a test to measure how much your promise means to you. And if you truly meant it when you told yourself, "I promised more," then fear cannot stop you. It can only remind you how important your vow really is. The promise you made to yourself isn't just about you, it's about everyone who will be touched by the life you build. When you rise, people notice. When you keep your word to yourself, others feel the strength of your example. You may not realize it, but someone out there is watching you. They're looking at how you fight, how you endure, how you honor your vow, and they're drawing courage from your journey. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are, it's not because they were perfect or had an easy path. It's because they kept going. It's because they stayed true to themselves when it would have been easier to quit. And that same power lies within you. By living your promise, you give permission for others to believe they can live theirs. This is bigger than your goals. This is about legacy. When you keep your promise, you don't just build your own life, you plant seeds in the lives of others. You show your children what resilience looks like. You show your friends what commitment means. You show strangers what's possible when a person refuses to back down from the vow they made to themselves. So, never underestimate the ripple effect of your promise. Your strength becomes their hope. Your progress becomes their inspiration. And your unshakable commitment becomes the proof that no matter how hard life gets, the promises we make to ourselves are worth keeping. So now, the question isn't whether life will test you, it will. The question isn't whether fear will rise, it will. The real question is, will you honor the promise you made to yourself? Because when the world doubts you, when circumstances push against you, when even your own mind tells you to quit, that promise is your anchor. That promise is your fire. That promise is your proof that you were never meant to settle for less. You didn't come this far to break your word. You didn't fight through the storms just to stop halfway. You made a vow to yourself, and now is the time to live it. Stand tall, move forward, keep your promise. Because the future you dream of is already waiting for the version of you that refuses to give up.